you could see it, you could feel it, and of course, it gives you a sense of who he is without knowing a lot about him,
Yeah,
you
for a
know.
few seconds, you get an idea about him. You're getting an idea of who he is really quickly.
Because I am agoraphobe and you are not.
Night of the Living Dead, 1968, man, created its own genre. I adore George Romero. I adore his films, especially his Unholy Trinity.
Hmm.
And we're going to do all three of them, and we're starting with Night today.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
I'm
I
stoked
mean,
for it.
it's a movie that as you know, it means a lot to me, and it still to this day, I mean, even when I just rewatched it just the other night, it still not only has a strong emotional, beat,
Right.
but it's still creepy as hell. Like
It
as
is.
soon as the movie starts,
Mhm.
and I think part of it, obviously because I know the movie, but even when the music starts on, nothing has even happened. You don't even see the car driving down yet, and
You
I'm
just hear
already, yeah, I'm kind of
black,
already in that
black and white,
zone.
and just it looks dreary. It looks like a fall day, which
Hmm.
and it just it looks like there's no sun anywhere. It's just like a total overcast. All you
Yeah.
see is black and white, and it looks like there's two colors. I mean, you know how some black and white you can tell if there's a red or a blue, like it's a little different black and white. On
Hmm.
this thing, man, it's just black or white, and it's just you
Yeah.
feels doom impending. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, that's a good point. It really does feel like just there's that cloud of doom that is right overhead. And the movie, it's a smart movie too, man. I mean, I know we're going to talk a lot about different things, but it's a very smart movie because it starts out with them going to the cemetery, and you get to see Barbara, kind of in this um not a motherly role, but
right.
she's very I don't know, self-determined, self-reliant, she seems to be like, and she's, correcting Johnny, and don't
Be the
say
adult,
that.
she has to be the
Yes.
adult. She has to because
Yes.
he's a little boy.
That's right. That's right. Because he's complaining about the 3-hour drive and this, and that. And she's like,
He's
look, we,
annoying.
we got to do it. So let's just do it. And so I think it was cool seeing her like that because, as the movie goes on, she goes through the spectrum of reactions to the situation. So it was a really good setup, doom, a
Yeah,
cloud of doom for sure over top of them.
and that was her doing. I've been doing a lot of extra stuff. I thought I knew everything about this film, but I've got
Mm.
40 different things written here that tells me half of them I didn't know, and that was shocking to me. She
Ooh.
was originally written to be like the 1990 Barbara,
Yes. Yeah.
but um, the way she was playing it, kind of caught George, and George liked he just liked that a little bit better the way she comes off. And I agree. I'm one of the few people that agrees that's the way the Barbara should be, because
Mhm.
she does bounce back and forth. She's not as weak as she comes off. There's several points in there where she comes off strong as hell. Like she just holds up and slaps the shit out of it. Like she's
Yeah,
insisting, I'm gonna go look for Johnny, and she slaps the shit
right.
out of him. So I don't care,
That's right. Yeah,
you know.
that's right.
But yeah, she was written to be that Barbara from the 1990 version, but they liked the way she was doing it there, so they stuck with that and just gave
Mm,
little things. And then at the end, she comes out just in time for her brother to snatch.
yep. Yeah. Yeah. No doubt. I mean, I think that what's also interesting about her character is, we got to remember, and I've said this in a lot of different conversations or live streams lately. Number one, this movie's from 1968, and so the landscape of horror movies was totally different.
Mm,
This is not something that people saw every day like we do now. Because of course,
right.
this movie launched, totally launched, super launched the whole zombie subgenre. But back then, this was not something that you saw all the time. Most
Yeah.
people didn't even know what a zombie was. They didn't even say the word zombie. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I think, when people talk about being desensitized to horror, it's a real thing, and we're all desensitized. Now, what I try to do is I try to, when I watch these movies, kind of dumb my mind down a bit as far as saying, what if this really did happen? You know,
Right.
what what if I was in this situation? You're just a regular person, stuff is happening, and oh my gosh, you got to run away, your brother just got killed, talking about, from Judith O'Dea's perspective. You've got to get out of there. You see a place where you can hole up. Yeah, go in there and kind of catch your breath. Like and I guess what I'm saying is it's very realistic
Yeah.
how this movie starts off and how she gets from point A in the cemetery to point B into the farmhouse, and ultimately what her character goes through. It's very realistic. Like, shit, man, I might have been like that if I was in this situation. You know what I mean? Like I might have had moments where I was, you know, just kind of so intense, like you said, when she slapped Ben. And then there might be other times when I'm just sitting there staring out into space because I'm thinking, oh my God, what the hell is going on? I mean, and I think that when audiences, especially today's audience, watches movies, and especially movies from back in the day, you kind of have to look
No,
at it
focus
from
more,
that
brother.
perspective,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's definitely hard to do though, because they're raised already seeing all this where we hadn't, and people before us hadn't done that.
Right.
Yeah. And when she runs through there, and she gets away from that first zombie,
Hmm.
Bill Klinsman, and then she runs and she goes into the house. Not only does she get in there trying to get away from him because she don't know what the hell he is or what he's doing or why he's doing it, she's just terrified. She goes
Hmm.
in there, and then not long after that, you get this other stranger busting through the door. You don't know if he's with him or what the
Right.
hell his point is. So he runs in. He's barking orders, and he's asking her a bunch of questions. And finally, she just goes from just freaking out to just going, I don't know.
Hmm.
You know, just stop. She at one point she just stopped. She said, what is happening? You know what I mean? And I
Right.
completely got that
Hmm.
exactly because I remember I first seen it. I was thinking, what is happening?
Yeah.
You know?
No, I agree. Um, again, if this stuff was happening,
Hmm.
you have no clue why or
Yeah,
even what. Like it's totally believable. And again, I think, Judith O'Dea playing this role of Barbara, I think that she did a hell of a job, man.
I
She
love it.
really, really did. And again, George crafting this movie where, I mean, we're literally following her for those first, whatever it is, 15, 16 minutes until Ben shows up to the house. And then when he shows up to the house, it's kind of like, okay, what's going on now? I mean, people give a lot of credit to like Hitchcock with Psycho, how we're following, Marion, and all of a sudden, when she gets killed, it's like, oh, it's been flipped, and I think
Yeah,
that this movie, not it's not the same thing, but it's very interesting how, we're following this character and we're very strongly invested in her, and we continue to be. But then all of
right.
a sudden when Ben comes into to the story, it's like, okay, well, this character is kind of interesting because he's taking his fear and his confusion and he's like sharpening it into trying to find a solution. He's trying to
Yeah.
figure stuff out. And of course, that's the real world. Some people are like that, but then there's a lot of people that are not, and they have to be helped. They have to be kind of coached. Like when he said to her, "I know you're scared. I'm scared too, but I need you to help me with this. I can't do this alone." Number one, great scene for Dwayne Jones.
Mm.
But it was also a great scene for Judith O'Dea as well, because it's kind of like, okay, now we're getting invested in to two people and hoping that they can survive, these zombies that are going to be coming to this farmhouse, you know?
Well, yeah,
So,
when she is a fan for him, he's snatching the truck and he's just going somewhere. He's already see, and it's like you're saying that shows immediately how different people react to different things in different ways. His
mm,
first reaction is, "Let's fix the situation. Let's try to survive." I'm gonna.
hmm
His mind instantly is clicking. What I do here? What I do here? What I need to do. Her, she kind of goes into almost a shock.
hmm
He's
hmm
kind of expecting her to be like right on with him, like, "Hey, what are you doing?
right,
I need help here." And she's just like, and she
right,
tries a couple of times, like when he's nailing the door on, you can see where she kind of
hmm
goes up there and kind of acts like she wants to help him hold the door, but then she gets up on her
yeah,
feet. So you can tell she kind of feels like she's in the way because he's
yes,
in full mode of survival and she's in full mode of standing there. So she just kind of backs off. So
yeah,
she
yeah,
offers to help in her own way, but she knew as well as he did she wasn't going to be any help because
right,
she wasn't
right,
ready. I love the huge contrast between the two of them. It's
yeah,
like, he's a survival. He's in survival. And it fits him,
mm,
that character, perfectly.
right,
He don't waste no time. He's
right.
a she's flight. He's fight.
Yes, yes, exactly. And it's a good balance because it makes the scene so much more interesting, because and I really do think they help each other in a lot of ways because like you said, he's figuring stuff out, she's reacting to it. But and I can almost bet, like if I was in that situation, he does need her, because when you have someone to protect, when you have someone to help, it automatically heightens your survival instinct because now, just like with a parent and a kid, now you like, because of course, and I don't want to jump ahead too far, but of course, when Cooper and the guys come up, he kept saying, "Leave the girl alone." Ben was very protective of Barbara,
Oh
and
yeah,
and so and so I think that what a lot of people sometimes may not talk about a lot is the fact that yeah, she needed him because he was on it, he was with it, but he needed her too.
yeah,
He needed her too, and I think that that's really an important thing because again, it just makes you even more determined to survive because you don't want to have that other person who's
yeah.
depending on you to get hurt or to die or whatever. So
He
and
recognized she wasn't going to go far without him, so he immediately felt
right,
responsible for her to take care of her because
that's
he
right.
knew he could tell this girl is not going to go far if she's not with
Hmm.
me, and she's definitely not going to go far with this bastard who's basically worried about himself. I mean, one of the first comments that Cooper makes is, when they're arguing, and he's like, "I told you that they turned over our car." Now,
Hmm.
of course, I heard him yelling. What was I supposed to do? Come up and risk our lives because someone may need some help?
That's right.
So
That's right.
it's like, yeah, yeah, I'm gonna put my life in your hands. Yeah,
That's right. Yeah, and again, that's a whole nother, you know, extra angle that's put into this equation, with Cooper because and then of course, that's what's this look, and I'm just obviously we're talking about this. We know this movie. We've recently watched this movie and we've talked about it before. But even right now as we're recording, new thoughts are coming into my head because it's just such a well done movie because now you bring in Cooper and it's not just a third angle to this equation, but he wants to kind of control the situation. And Ben doesn't want to let him because he doesn't trust him. And he also sees that Cooper is selfish, you know? And it's really interesting because, and I'm sure there are a lot of people when they watch this movie, there's some people that are thinking, Cooper's got a good point. Let's hole up in the basement. I know there's some, and I'll be quite honest. There's a part of me that's like, that may not be a bad idea. But then there's that other part of me, and I'm sure there's a lot of other people that would agree with Ben and say, hey, man, if the stuff goes down and we got to run, at least we got a chance. And it's very interesting.
Yeah.
You're in one place and you would think that you couldn't make it that interesting, but they do because of these different sides of the
Right.
argument that both have merit.
Well, right. Here's the difference, though. To me, this is what makes the big difference. You always want as many options as possible.
Mm,
If you go down the basement,
mm,
you take away every option. That if you lock
yep,
yourself in down there, you immediately take away every possible option that you're going to have. If you
yep,
stay up there, you still have two options. You can go out the other way, or you can still always go down into the basement.
right,
You can always go down there. But if you
yep,
go down there, you're down there. You know,
mm,
in that situation, you want as many options as you can possibly get. You don't
mm,
want to take them away from yourself, and that's what Cooper was suggesting doing. So as much as he was right, they were both equally right. But Ben
mm,
was just a little more right because he gave
right,
himself an extra run option if they had to. That way, if they
yeah,
bust through that door, you're pinned in there. You're a cornered calf. You know.
yeah, yeah. Well, and the interesting thing too about Ben is, and especially, and even before Cooper came upstairs, Ben is further along in this understanding of what's going on, because when he escaped and he was talking about how he was running down a bunch of them, and again, a
Mm-hmm.
fantastic performance and scene by Dwayne Jones, because you could feel the emotion when he was speaking, and he was like, it was like a bunch of bugs. They wouldn't even move. They just stood there. And man, like you can visualize it when
Mental
he was
picture.
speaking it. Yes, yes. Hey, listen, I mean, this movie is almost 60 years old. And these performances are just crazy good.
Yeah,
Just
yeah,
little things. And it's awesome to acknowledge. And obviously it's a full-blown classic and everyone knows that. But I just hope that it continues to find newer audiences because there's so much you
yeah.
can still learn about filmmaking and acting and scenes and
Yeah.
stuff like that. Because again, he's literally just describing what he went through before he got to the farmhouse. And because of the way it was written and because of the performance by Dwayne Jones, you could see it, you could feel it, and of course, it gives you a sense of who he is
Right.
without knowing a lot about him,
Yeah,
you
for
know.
a few seconds, you get an idea about him. You're getting an idea of who he is really quickly, and that right there is
Mhm,
great performance. And see, there wasn't really a script written for most of the dialogue is improvised in this. That's something else I
mhm,
didn't really realize. All that most of it is improvised. But when he talks about when he's hitting them and they scatter like bugs, I
mhm.
instantly pictured that. I could see them flying off, scattering like bugs.
Yeah.
And I think there's always debate on which one of the three is the best, and I think this is the one thing. When you talk about all these different things involving each film,
Mhm,
this is the thing that makes it the best of the three. Is
mhm.
all of the different. The other two are great, but they just don't have as many facets. You know what I mean? You got so many different things going on in this. You got
Right.
five completely different people.
Mhm,
The only two people that are on the same page basically at all that are Tom and Judy, and that's just
mm.
because Judy's just going, hey, whatever Tom wants to do, you know.
Right.
But
Right.
you got Helen and Harry; they're definitely not on the same page. Um,
Mhm,
you know, Barbara, she's on her own thing. Ben is just come in and taken over. I'm leading this whole thing, and he said
mhm.
I claim this place is mine. I'm
That's
taking
right.
care of it, and I'm not gonna let any stupidity fuck with that.
Yep, that's right. I know, man. I love the part where he says, because Cooper's like, well, I'm gonna go back down the stairs, and if you're not down there, good luck, and da da da. And I love it when Ben's like, head on downstairs. You can be the boss down there. I'm boss up here. Like he just Ben Ben just he didn't want to deal with any of the bullshit, and you can't blame him because he realizes again, like I said, Cooper is not. He's not the person that you want to have to save you.
Right.
You know what I mean? You don't want that guy to be the one that has to save you. And again, it says a lot about these characters, and it's not that Cooper is a villain. You know,
Yeah.
it's not that like he's an evil like person, but he's just about himself and his kid and his wife, you know,
Yeah.
which is realistic. You
Right.
know, people could be just like that in this situation, you know. Like he said, there was five of them that turned over the car and chased them to the farm, you know, so it's like I get it. I get it. I
But if he
totally
wasn't
get
so
it.
damn, he wasn't so damn ignorant, he would have realized that someone like Ben is exactly who you want on your team in a situation like this.
That's right.
You want, you picture and you think of who you would want as your right hand man or whatever scenario is in a situation. Ben's him, you
That's
know,
right. That's right. Yeah, I
and
mean,
he's so
yeah.
ignorant and selfish he doesn't realize that.
Yeah, and of course that's the tragedy of the movie as well because think about this. What if when they came upstairs, yeah, they were scared and you know, they didn't come up when they needed to. But what if Cooper obviously he still, you know, is strong-willed, but what if he said, "Look, man, let's just work together on this. What do we have to do to make this work?" Because if he had done that, then of course Tom and Judy would have been, you know, they would have been
Right.
on board. And you know, Barbara obviously went through her phases of dealing with it and not dealing with it. So they could have survived, maybe. You know, they
Yeah.
definitely could have survived longer than they did if they worked together. But of course, as we know, I mean, this movie is a microcosm of how the world is. You know, how people have differing
Yes.
opinions, and can they work together to accomplish a certain goal. You know, the goal in this movie is to survive zombies. You know, in the real world, it could be a business, it could be it could
Yeah.
be a collaboration, it could be, you know, it could be whatever. So
Because I am agoraphobe and you are not.
2000, and for some reason I expected a girl.
mm,
I talked to him like it was a girl and everything until I found out it was a boy. I was like, "Oh, hi, Juno, how you doing?" Like as if it was a female. You know what I mean? And I was talking to this dude like that. I was like, "Oh, hi, it's nice to see you." I thought that's a guy. Like
it happens, man. It happens.
because it sounds like a girl, don't it?
Yes, absolutely.
Hi, Juno. Oh, that's sweet of you to join. You know,
That's
but
funny, man.
but
I know what you mean, though. I've done that before too, man. You're talking to someone in the chat and you don't know, and I've had that happen before too, man. I've had that happen before too.
thanks for joining. That's sweet. It's a 23-year-old dude.
Right. I wonder what he thought of that. That's funny.
Well, I eventually told him, I was asking and stuff like that. He said something, remarked something that made me realize that it was a guy. And I was like,
Yeah.
"Oh, you're a dude? I thought you was a chick. I was all talking to you like you was some young girl." And you're like, "Oh, hi, thanks for joining, sweetie." All this. It's like he probably thought, "What the hell is wrong with you, dude?"
Right. Uh,